morning, good morning. Good morning. You know what I'm saying? We gonna tap in. I'm gonna tag a couple more people and we can get started. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're going to get to it this morning. We're going to break down the Styles P response to Hassan Campbell. And we're going to build on this today. Because it's some shit that we're going to have to speak about. Because I feel Styles, but some niggas is not properly should be speaking about certain shit. So we're going to build on it.
Peace, 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 y'all. Peace. Love is love, y'all. Love is love, love is love, love is love. Hope all is blessed today. Make sure you drink your water. You know what I mean? Make sure you stay up, stay floating, stay above, keep your head above water. I'm in Yonkers tonight, man. Come through the square, man. Or, yo, Monies, where we at tonight? What's the name of the shit? Super Soul was good. See, today we're gonna have a real kind of different conversation right now. I just seen a video on YouTube, you know what I mean? And I see how misled we are sometimes. Like, you know what I'm saying? I see that there's a blurred line out here on the street sometimes. And that's bound to happen. Like, you understand what I'm saying? That's bound to happen. That just kind of goes with the game. We at the Blue Lounge tonight, though, in Yonkers, if you want to come out and celebrate the album release with me. Blue Lounge, Getty Square. We're going to be having a good time. Lou, what up, West Coast? We're going to have a ball. But see, today, we're not no promotion today. I just want to tell you healthy, and I just want to have G talk. I just finished watching a YouTube clip, right? Yeah, Hassan Campbell, that was the shit, bro. Brother Haas, love is love to you, man. I hope you stay blessed. I'm going to walk you down the line of where you're misguided. And this is why, I don't know if you seen my live the other day, but I was telling y'all, a lot of y'all from the sets, just send me the youth because y'all don't know what the fuck is going on. So if you on a blood set, you on a Crip set, and you ain't really got all your shit together and you're mixing business and streets, just send the fucking youth over here. You question my integrity, I guess, as a businessman or a street person, but with my business. See, the business world is not the street world, Hassan. It's a totally different world, babe, bro. And besides that, I am a 46-year-old New Yorker. I don't know about blood terms or Crip terms. I'm just a regular G. No knock to the Bloods or Crips. You know, I got blood and Crip brothers, people I love. But you on your shit talk about set shit, this and that behind the wall. That ain't my time, beloved. I'm out here fixing the youth so they don't got to talk about being behind the wall and niggas who ratted and this and that. That's the time I'm on. I'm 5 juice bars up, 1 pharmacy store coming, and my shit is all in the hood. I'm dolo, talking to youth every day because niggas like you is blurring the lines. You don't know, you ain't even wise enough to be on here. You telling the youth, nigga, get a real job, go to your job and tell them you ain't working with a snitch. Fuck is wrong with you, bro?
One thing I've noticed the last past 2 weeks, we got everybody who be listening to Hassan Campbell. Now, if you're a person who actually tap into Hassan be tripping, right, at times. Like, as far as, he don't be tripping about what he talking about. He just real animated, right? So I noticed when I seen this, it's almost like the niggas in the higher ups now, you know what I'm saying that he's blurring the lines about what he talking about. But like, I watched Haas made a good point about Styles last night. Like, nigga, you sold us goddamn gang. You sold us drugs, coke, dope money, back to dope money. From dope money to rap money, back to dope money, pills, pain, crack. Deluxe music taught niggas not to have emotions, period. And I grew up on the shit. Fire ass MCs. But when the MCs who sold us nothing but negativity can talk shit to somebody who's challenging the culture, this is the problem we have now. Styles now at 46-year-old, the 46-year-old Styles or the 40-year-old Styles is not Styles P from when we was younger, right? And I give him that. But when Styles say the lines blurred, like, I agree with Haas, like, my nigga, ever since when did the Lox sell any type of elevation for black men? They didn't. They made the music that kept grown-ass men in the same mentality as niggas when they was fucking 12. So I had this. I couldn't just sit back and be like, yo, hold on. So when Styles saying the lines is blurred, nobody blurred the lines more than these 90s rappers. And the thing about the Lox was, they hardly ever gave you any type of elevated raps or emotional raps or the things that would help black men. Like, they got songs. Like, Jada had like one song on his albums, and you know what I'm saying? But overall, no. They was just talking about dope. So I want to be clear about this shit, about what Styles is saying, because that's the biggest contradiction that could be said. Even though I understand he grew up.
Wake the fuck up. You think dudes on parole that gotta go to work at Con Ed and all that place, they telling them he ain't working with no snitches or none of that? Like, wake the fuck up, bro. Stop getting on here and looking for...
And the reason why they mad, let me tell you why these industry niggas mad. Or why a lot of niggas who got these record deals and these motherfuckers who be around and get mad at niggas like Haas or somebody like me who be speaking that true shit. Get in your feelings, but you gotta get out of it. Remember, at the end of the day, he mad because all them niggas signed to Rock Nation, right? They're like, Jay-Z's like assistant president or something, her name like Rosie Perez or some shit. She took down 2 cartels in Mexico, and she's a well-known informant, right? But they all work with her. She like big in like the VP department and marketing and shit. But they all gotta work with her. So when Haas be talking about snitches, all of these niggas on Rock Nation who know that she told on cartels and niggas, because it's work, now they saying, oh, well, when niggas in the yard, the niggas at work, they're not worried about it. You gotta separate the streets from business. You know what I'm saying? So last night, Haas was like, yo, but when 50 was out, you feel me? He was rapping. That's business, right? A rapper, that's getting money. He was getting money. He was a professional rapper. But niggas called him snitches, right? See, this whole conversation, I'm going to chop it up because I don't think Styles is completely wrong, but he got some nerve.
Clout, man. Stop talking about people. And if you was really about that life, you wouldn't be blogging about it. Like you would have been outside handling it. And when I did have problems with people, you didn't hear me say about nobody snitching. You didn't hear me talk about bad about them. You don't even hear me say that nowadays because I'm out here trying to help these fucking youth. You got a job, nigga. You blogging every day, nigga. Stop fucking worried about what's going on outside. Get another little nigga from outside.
Okay, so how does another grown man tell a nigga who's a blogger? A blogger is like a reporter. To tell him, stop worrying about what's outside. Look how ignorant that shit really is, what Styles saying. Nigga, stop worrying about what's outside and go get a little nigga and turn him to a blogger. I agree with him. He can help a young nigga from where he come from become a big blogger, put him on. Right? But how you gonna tell a reporter to stop worrying about what the fuck is outside? You know what I'm saying? Because that's what these YouTubers are. Like, niggas who good at it. Haas is good at it. And then they be saying, like, he misled. Like, clearly, Kwame and these 2 niggas are not qualified to have any conversation about youth and shit. Because Kwame went to the NBA like Haas was telling him, nigga, you went to the NBA. You might have came from poverty, but you 20 years later. You know what I'm saying? They talk to Haas as if Haas is a nobody, but we gotta be real here, right? Haas went to jail for murder. He did like 15 years, and he got locked up for like 3 other bodies when he was younger. If you really listen to Haas, he's not glorifying. If you get a small clip, if somebody chop up Haas, he be like, he got a snap box rocked. And if you just get the little clips other people show you, what Haas say, the sarcastic shit, then you're gonna be misled. If you have never watched Haas, he do start off saying like, young nigga got a snap box rock. But it be the same nigga who is disrespecting Nipsey or disrespecting other niggas or niggas running around disrespecting the dead. Haas' point of view be saying that the youth need to stop this shit. You know what I'm saying? In order for us to get further. And he getting all his problems, and I'm explaining it because with Styles, you gotta remember, like how I said last night, the more he get into it with rappers and ball players, they sound real Masonic and real Boule and real secret society like. You know what I'm saying? Because these are some of the same motherfuckers who was destroying the community by their music.
And get him blogging too. That's what the fuck you do, because you confused, nigga. You confused, brother, and I love you and I understand some of the shit you're saying makes sense, but some of it don't. Some of it don't. And don't come pushing your fucking projecting your energy on other shit. I can't be questioned on the streets. You know why I can't be questioned? Because I've never ratted. I never told this, never even been questionable. I've been facing 10 and 11, could have told on my best friends, they know I didn't. You understand what I'm saying? I could have told on somebody who told on me, they know I didn't. So I can't be questioned when it comes to that. So when you asking me about what's happening with y'all fucking Bloods and Crips and all of that other shit, I don't fucking know, bro, and I don't care. I'm out here every day trying to get the youth out of that direction. You know what it's like to be behind a wall? Why the fuck you ain't telling the kids, get a job, nerd up, nigga, that's what I...
Alright, so this is the new dilemma. I noticed that everybody in the world got a fucking problem with certain things. See, there's bosses and there's workers, right? That's just the reality. Everybody can't be a boss and everybody can't be workers, because somebody got to run the shit and tell niggas what to do, and some niggas need to be told what to do who ain't strong enough to do it. So I notice even when I go live, right? When I go live and it be a lot of people on my feed and I be like, y'all tell niggas that fuck a job, go start your own business and shit, da-da-da. Motherfuckers get mad and be like, yo, but tripping. How the fuck you gonna go tell people to not get a job as if the youth not gonna make it and they ain't gonna get no money? You should be telling these niggas to go get a job, you know what I'm saying? Go do this, and that at the end of the day. If that's the case, I'm telling them to do the same thing that our ancestors told them to do 50 years that they told them. They didn't know no better because they just got freedoms and they told them like, yo, go do A, B, C, and D to be a part of the world so you can get your just dues. Well, this is 50, 60 years later, 70 years later, and niggas ain't got their just dues. Even our parents who work and got it, they in a certain position, but they got very little growth. They couldn't go but so much further, most of them. So when I hear Styles saying, why not tell these young niggas go get a job and nerd up? Okay, it's two ways. It's many ways to skin a cat, but the niggas who work jobs need to really watch their tone with niggas who made their own way. Because in reality, a nigga who work job, you're not a lesser person. He or she. You're a strong, go-getting motherfucker who found a way through the system to go get it. And you should be applauded. At the same time, that nigga or that woman who created their own way, that's freedom. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to understand, a motherfucker at work got no right to get mad at motherfuckers who made their own way. You know what I'm saying? And it should be listening, because instead of you arguing with them, you should be trying to pass that information on to your kids so they don't have to slave and stress like you did to get to your money. If you can help it. If you got that mindset. If not, if you want to raise a family full of workers, that's cool. It don't mean y'all gonna fail. Y'all just need to be on y'all shit. But y'all gotta remember, y'all life, the whole family life depends on what somebody else does. If the country shut down, ain't no more money, what you gonna do then? You know what I mean? So words that be taken from the real woke niggas who be speaking straight up when we talk about jobs, or when I talk about jobs and I say it, I don't mean disrespect. But at the end of the day, I don't owe no apologies, because you should understand already that our goal is to be free. We should all be looking to have our own businesses, at least have the idea of it. But if half the community who in poverty still talking about something, what the fuck you talking about? He ain't got no job, you missing the point. You know what I'm saying? And that's the point that I wanted to make about what Styles said, go nerd up. Now, I agree. The youth should be on some shit, because he trying to tell the youth to get out the street. Because I'm not just trying to pick on Styles at all, because I fuck with Styles and I seen his growth, but we have to be clear, right? Because Styles, you know what I'm saying? Him telling the kids to go nerd up, that is the move. Go to Silicon Valley, go do these things, but a lot of kids not there yet. You know what I'm saying? If the parents, when they 5, 6, not giving them computers and showing them certain shit, then it's going to be hard for them to get that advancement. So when we say, when Highs or people like me tell people to fuck a job and go start your own business at the end of the day, don't look down on us as if we telling your kids to be failures and go stand on the block and sell drugs. That's not what we said. We told you, if you don't want to be a slave to society and have to go through this bullshit, then don't do it, because what I know for a fact is that most people that's up at work right now, you ain't doing what you love. So cut the bullshit out with the annex when y'all be talking about niggas who made their way.
I do. That's what I'm out here doing. That's me. That's me, brother. Like, you gotta relax yourself and stop projecting. You get on here with your big arms, you're blogging, talking too much about behind the wall. Nigga, you a blogger. Keep blogging. And ain't nothing wrong with that. That's a good fucking thing. You got yourself a job. You're doing good. You got fans. You got people. Now you're all this confused, like, yo, I'm gonna tell the Madison Square Garden, the versus people of this, yo, this is questionable. I don't know if, like, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro? Grow up, and you never heard me say anything bad about Bully.
Let me say this shit. That's not true. Because Bully, they the ones that kicked Bully out the group because they said he was a snitch. Now, more importantly, I want y'all to understand this, right? When I grew up on these niggas, so I know for a fact that every album and every tape told you, fuck a snitch. Don't fuck with a snitch, right? That's the shit they was on. Now they older, they 45, so now Styles see the world, he older. So now he a little more mature. He ain't thinking like a little boy no more, right? But he ain't really accountable for the destruction he did, him, Styles, and Sheek Louch. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole decade of niggas in prison off they shit, right? That's all they sold was destruction. Crack, dope money, shoot a nigga, hawk a nigga, walk him down. That's what they bout. And I grew up on that shit. I got hella respect for them as artists. But come on, you the last nigga that should be up here checking a nigga about certain shit when you been quiet for 20 years. You done made your money off for the youth already who now 35, 40, who already been to prison, niggas in a different place. And now you want to change?
If the public know about him, it ain't because I said something about it. So you know what I'm saying? Grow the fuck up. The big problem with y'all niggas in that set, and a lot of y'all, and no disrespect, I'm an old school New Yorker, so I don't know shit about, I'm like old school New Yorker. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't know what the fuck, I don't know nothing about y'all shit. And all my homies are telling me, I'm around, I ask questions all day. So don't come here telling me about this shit. Nigga, I'm at juice bars, nigga, giving the youth a better way. I'm trying to fix our community's diet every day.
Late, bro.
That's my fight, dog. Every day, that's what I'm out here doing. On the streets. You know what I'm saying? And you know what's real? This is what's a crazier conversation, brother. You know what? I deal with real dudes who've been through a lot of shit that I have this conversation on the side with them. Because when somebody come up to the juice bar telling me who ratted, guess what? When I'm at the juice bar, I'm a fucking businessman. Don't tell me shit about nobody who ratted and none of that.
But when they was younger, they was rappers, right? They was businessmen, right? That's the only point I want y'all to understand. Where everybody is getting Haas confused, respectfully, is that I don't think Styles mean harm. I think that they showed Styles a clip. Cause I could tell by the way he talked, like you a blogger, not a nigga went to prison for murder, my nigga, and had 3 other murders. Like, he changed his whole life. Like, you clearly, that's how I know. When you see people, somebody showed him a clip of him talking about him and the niggas in the industry and shit like that. Now, the industry niggas older now. Now, some of these niggas is telling us what's going on behind the curtains. You know what I'm saying? The homosexual shit, all the shit going on, the shit you gotta do. And some niggas still holding solid. You know what I'm saying? Understood. My only question to this shit is that, do we question Styles for saying that he dealing with the youth now? But we have to be real with ourselves, especially as young black men, and say, like, hold up, bro. You sold us the most dopes and killing music on the East Coast than any group in American history. So you can sell our kids, well, it was us. You can sell us and our parents that gangster shit. And then after you make your money and you get up, then you can turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to heal the community. You know what I'm saying? When I hear Locke's projects, and I know Styles do be talking some shit. Styles now, music do be talking some shit. But it's like, when they was in their youth and when the time when they had the energy and they was on, they weren't focused on that shit.
I ain't asked you. First of all, I don't like people to fucking chat about people. If I'm gonna call somebody a rat, I'm gonna call it in their fucking face, within arm's distance, in case they want to swing. You know what I'm saying? Not over a computer. I'm gonna make sure I'm right up close, personal, and call you a rat where you know I called you a rat. That's my MO. Not over a fucking computer, not none of that. Like, so, but the biggest thing about this whole point is y'all motherfuckers keep misleading the youth. The streets is the streets. The outside of the streets is outside of the streets. A lot of y'all niggas is not even built for this shit. When I'm trying to get y'all to...
This nigga High said last night, did Styles or the Locks of them give us any song that ever said, if the person is a bystander or ain't in the streets, they not snitches? Have they ever gave us those lyrics? No. Have they ever told us, has the Locks or Styles ever told us the difference in the rules in the streets? Now, Styles is always, to his defense, Styles has always talked gangster and gentleman. That's always been Styles. He always had like a gangster but a gentleman approach. That's always been him. I'm not going to take it from him. You know what I'm saying? But has the Locks, and when we grew up, what did they give us to teach us about who's in the streets, who not in the streets. I never got no locks, tapes, or albums that was telling us about, yo, grandma not a snitch, they not snitches, they bystanders. We don't hear that. It don't matter if they told niggas. So that's all I'm saying. Some of the things Styles is saying fucked me up because he said blur the lines, but the lines was created, the lines that need to be that's blurred was created by the rappers.
Fucking fruit and veggie up in the first place, then you come with your slow ass thought process trying to push that shit on everybody else. Nigga, I build with real killers every day and tell them don't tell me that shit. Fuck is you talking about, man? Outside every day, ghosts, every borough, any borough. You know you see me alone. You know I tell the OGs to tell their youth, get the fuck your gang, nigga. Fuck your gang. I don't give a fuck about that shit. I'm a black man. Care about my community first, nigga. I say it, I tell you any nigga, any set, don't come to me with your principles and your shit. I don't give a fuck about what you talk about, nigga. I know about what I'm talking about. That's what I know about, what I'm talking about. And what I'm talking about is helping the youth every day. And
when a person say, like, when I be sitting down with people and they supposed to be like, technically he supposed to be trying to get game on an intellectual conversation, right? That's supposed to be somewhat intellectual. If a nigga tell you, bro, I don't give a fuck about what you talking about, I give a fuck what I'm talking about. First of all, you ain't that woke and you very closed-minded because you're not really susceptible to the conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's something I notice. And a lot of times when as we mature, you know what I'm saying, we supposed to be able to pay attention. When a nigga say some shit like that to you, you just be like, all right, bro, peace up and keep it pushing because that shit gonna go left eventually. You know what I'm saying? So it's no need. What I've learned is that when people make statements like that, he just told you that he only care about what he know and what he understand. But it's clearly a lot of shit that we don't understand as people.
If you ain't talking about that, I don't even know why you talking my name. You like a bird to me, respectfully, but you like a bird to me, dog. Are you serious? You don't tell business people about fucking snitches in the code of the street. That's what's wrong with y'all niggas. Y'all niggas want a street reputation so bad. And you want to be known in the street so bad. You want to be so big in your set. You want to be the big homie where you from. You don't think sensibly. I think for the fucking youth. And I'm willing to tell you and any...
I'm going to give y'all high side too.
Other nigga in any of y'all fucking sets in your fucking face. You don't like what I'm saying? I don't give a fuck. That's how Styles P gives it up. I don't give a fuck about what happened with Trade 9. Fuck, I don't give a fuck, nigga. You see me with a red flag on, nigga? Is that gonna help me get these kids to eat right? Drink right, nigga? Is it? That's my mission every day, dog, and I live that. I stand on that. I stand on that. I don't give a fuck what set y'all niggas is from. Ghost is out here trying to help the youth, dog. You don't like that, don't come to me. Yo, I don't even give a fuck. I didn't rat. I know my code, and I know what my circle code is. And I'm at the point of my life, I don't even judge niggas who ratted no more. Even the niggas who ratted me who...
No more. I want y'all to listen to the lingo. No more.
If you're looking right now, I forgive y'all niggas. Some niggas rat because they was in a circumstance they shouldn't have been in, and it's niggas like your fault. Niggas like you, bro, it's your fault. For niggas thinking they gotta be a certain way. Nah, nigga, nerd up. Fuck that set. Nigga, get a job. Get a job. Go to school.
I'm not knocking everything Styles saying. Because like I told y'all, my thing is I'm talking about the integrity behind Styles. In this situation, when he telling kids nerd up, hell yeah, bro. I agree with you. You tell them, like, you know what I'm saying? This gang shit ain't it. I mean, the youth gonna figure it out eventually. They done seen all their favorite rappers get murdered and shit or go to prison. All the niggas that the youth and the music look up to, them niggas ain't gonna be in the streets in 5 years. Most of these niggas be gone. It's gonna be a new generation. You know what I'm saying? Of rappers in 5 years, because all of these niggas that's out who we keep on pushing them to do stupid shit, gonna be in prison.
Cool, man. Fuck is wrong with y'all niggas? Y'all always think y'all questioning some shit or some G shit behind the wall. I never would have been a fool behind no wall, nowhere. And I don't judge other niggas for what they do because they ain't me and I ain't them. I am my own man. I don't know if your daddy or your pops or your OG or any other man in your family ever told you this. Every man is responsible for his own actions. Don't ever forget that, man. I don't got no right to judge these niggas. I ain't old school Pete. So I'm not sitting there judging people. I don't know their journey. I don't know why they rap.
My only question, and I ask this to all black men, especially when you younger. See, when you 45 in some sense, like when I was a kid, I used to be in church and shit, and I used to feel like, well, it's fucked up that they gonna put all this pressure on the kids when all the adults in here done live their life in sin already. That's what I used to be thinking at like 4. That's the type of mindset I had at 4. I'm in church walking around like, yo, they stay hard on the kids, but most of them done live their life already. You know what I mean? So it's like the same thing in the streets. When we mature at 45, we need to first admit that we bloom late. You know what I'm saying? And the same way that he look at the world now, he was capable of looking at the world then if he would have slowed down and calmed down. See, when you get older, you ain't got no choice but to pay attention to some signs because you ain't as young as you used to be. A lot of the crazy homeboys you grew up with, they in prison, they dead. You ain't in the same circumstance. You more vulnerable when you get older. So now you looking at, it's a lot more shit. You done made a lot of mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Life has humbled you. You know what I'm saying? 45 years on earth.
I don't know what's going on. I know I wouldn't have. And that's all that matters to me. And then what matters to me even more is I can't even have my mind in that mind state. Because then I can't help these fucking kids out. So if you don't feel that, fuck off, nigga.
But at the same time, I also say I'm proud of Styles too because Styles has came a long way. So I want to be clear. He's came a long way. You know what I mean? From the crimes and the shit, he's stabbing the nigga in the asshole, getting locked up for the shit. Like Styles was a ruthless young nigga. You know what I'm saying? Can't take that from him. But the point is, if he had this mindset, we needed this mindset in that music. You know what I'm saying? When it's time to go on stage, this ain't what you selling us.
This is that Styles P. That's my mission, nigga. If you don't get it and you ain't helping, don't fucking worry about what I'm doing. Don't try to drag me back in some old, dumb, negative mind state ass shit. I see rats every day. I know rats. Everybody know rats. Everybody know a bunch of rats. I'm not on the time. I ain't trying to violate them. I'm not active. It's their fucking business. And I didn't rat, and that's what the fuck I know. I'm responsible for my actions. My code. You look at my jacket, you look at the shit that I've been charged for and beat, you look what's under, my shit don't got nothing to do with telling on nobody. And I ain't a nigga that's gonna talk about niggas if I didn't see the paperwork neither.
Let's pause for a second. Let's be fair about this. Let's go back. Let's be fair. Let's be fair about this.
Be with your principles and your shit. I don't give a fuck.
All the time in Castle Hill. I've seen you over there. Watch somebody else. It's just that simple. Snitching. I'm not telling on anybody. I'm having a conversation. I never told on anybody. I'm having a conversation. You dig? Stop trying to corrupt my chat line and go watch one of them other dudes. We don't need you over here. We already got 3,300 people in the building in 11 minutes. We don't need you. You can go take your ass and get out of here. You dig?
He talking about people being in the track
Now,
talking shit.
Let's get into Styles P. Styles P, you've been talking real spicy. I actually kind of like you, Styles P. And let me say this, right? Matter of fact, let me let you speak on Poppy from Bronx River.
I just finished watching a YouTube clip, right? Yeah, Hassan Campbell, that was the shit, bro.
That's me, nigga.
Brother Ox, love is love to you, man.
Yeah.
I hope you stay blessed.
Same to you.
I'm gonna walk you down the line of where you're misguided, and this is why I don't know if you seen my live the other day, but I was telling y'all a lot of y'all from the session send me the youth because y'all don't know what the fuck is going on. So if you want a blood set, you want a crip set,
I'm not in none.
You got all your shit together and you're mixing business and streets, just send the fucking youth over here. You question my integrity, I guess, as a businessman or a street person.
Listen carefully.
With my business. See, the business world is not the street world, Hassan. It's a totally different world, baby, bro. And besides that, I'm a 46-year-old New Yorker. I don't know about blood terms or crip terms. I'm just a regular G. No knock to the Bloods and Crips. You know I got blood and crip brothers, people I love. But you on your shit talk about set shit, this and that behind the wall. That ain't my time, beloved. I'm out here fixing the youth. So they don't got to talk about being behind the wall and niggas who ratted and this and that. That's the time.
pause you for a second. Let me talk to you, Styles. Right? Because I'm going to walk your ass through what you're saying too. First off, when I'm dealing with gang members, because I'm not a gang member. I left gang, a long time ago, right? It's funny how throughout your career, y'all damn near ended 50 Cent's career based off of him being a rat when y'all didn't have no paperwork. Y'all called 50 a rat and almost ended his career. When you called 50 Cent a rat, you didn't sit up there and say, this is a job. This is a career. 50 was rapping. You wasn't saying, this is a job. This is a career. Right? So now, being that all of you niggas that taught us to stay away from rats are affiliated with rats. Right? Because now, all of y'all affiliated with rats the way Rock Nation is dealing with a goddamn federal agent who took down 2 cartels, the way you sitting up there and you doing a show, right? When you was beefing with 50 Cent, you labeled him a rat. Y'all helped make 50 Cent career die down. Y'all kept...
All I'm going to ask the feed, if you still in here, is he lying?
50 Cent career. Am I correct? Say yes in the chat. Am I correct? Never, ever, ever, when y'all was on top of y'all game, did y'all teach us, the community, that it's okay to be a rat when it's time to go to work and be a civilian? Y'all never taught us that before. But when it's beneficial to you bitch niggas, now you want to sit up there and say, well, it's a difference between civilians and working people. Now it's a difference, right?
He didn't, everybody attacking Highs, but I feel Highs like, these niggas we grew up on, they didn't teach us the right game a lot of, Pop, Nas. If Nas was having this conversation, I feel you.
Y'all don't get to pick and choose when to hang out with rats and when not to. When you started your careers off, y'all started money.
Let me say this too to the people that watch this and always tap in with me. I want you to think back to when we were younger to today and all the music you listen to. And you can see with this mindset of this conversation, look at the people you loved and the artists that you know. Look at what product they sold to the public. And tell me how many of these guys really stand for something. And how many of these guys was willing to still speak their mind and still be respected. Like, when they're hot. That's how you judge that man and that artist.
Power, respect, the key to life. From rap money to dope money. Huh? Y'all started off rap, drug dealers, killers. Nowhere in between did y'all give us the elevated version of y'all, right? So what you do, Styles P, is you sell juice. Yes, you do. I personally be at your juice bar on a regular. I used to be over there with Akeem. You know who Akeem from Bronx River is. You know who he is. I know who he is. I be over there with Ak all the time in Juice for Life in Castle Hill. So I'm outside all the time in Castle Hill. I've seen you over there before I became the big YouTuber. I've seen Styles P, She Klooch over there quite a few times. So I'm in your juice bar. You don't get to sit up there, right? Let me talk to you, Styles P, because you talking to me like you talking to a dumb nigga. So let me talk to you and show you just how smart I am. Respectfully, my nigga. You don't get to sit up here and sell death to the community from rap money to dope money. I love your music. Love it. I am a fan of yours and all of the locks. But don't think that you can't stand to be corrected, my nigga. Respectfully. I don't know who the fuck you think you're talking to when you calling somebody dumb after you sat up there and put music out, and in your music you never explained in the public eye on screen through your music that it is now okay to deal with rats. You never did that. So now you want to sit up here. Let me let you finish, because I'm going to break your ass down. You should have thought about what the fuck you said before you said it, because you got a catalog up here that you can't erase. You don't get to sit up there and say that
Nigga said, yo, when he said that, yo, it about buckled me. You know what I'm saying? See, in the future that these rap niggas, these street niggas gonna grow up, right? Cause see, it's a lot of flack when you try to mature as a man in our community. Let's be real about it. All of those sideways comments, even if you grew up around them niggas or was involved, when you start changing, all of those sideways gestures, comments, niggas move different, right? But it come a time where they mature. Some of them. Some stay in their second childhood, as Nas said. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's crazy that we will realize, like, you know, when we young, we understand it, but as you get older, you never sit back and ask yourself about the artists we love and what they put in our minds. And how many kids, I grew up off that shit. I know what that shit did to niggas around me.
Behind the scenes, but on the satanic stage of the music industry. On the satanic stage, you get up there and preach the same lyrics that led the kids to the hellfire. Millions of youth listen to you for over 20 years on the front line. So now you think you're going to save the kids behind the scenes? Why is that? Oh, right. Because if you try to wake up the youth, there's $1 billion budget to keep them dumbed down. You might get your snot box rocked. Right. So you got to hide to save the youth, right? Right. I call that pussy, respectfully, my nigga. You know the fuck you think you talking to.
Now, one of the reasons why I brought this conversation is not for the disrespect, but see, I noticed this is the atmosphere, and it relates to me getting up every morning or the times when I be here and I constantly have to go through this. Like, it's people that just come in, or people will get a piece of your conversation. You might just tap in and hear a quote. You know what I'm saying? There's a way to go about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, now they challenging the motherfuckers who out here speaking against the bullshit. So now it's cool for the motherfuckers who destroyed the block, who coming back trying to sweep up and clean up some of the shit that they did, right? To challenge another motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Who trying to change it. That's why I say they don't listen to Haas, right? Even when I listen to Kwame, like I listen to Kwame talk, but when I seen they debate, what it made me feel like was Kwame came with an agenda, and also, he, you know what I mean? It's just like he kept calling him boy and shit. You know what I'm saying? Now, first of all, to a nigga that's 7 feet, to a Haas probably like 5'10". You know what I'm saying? You know you bigger, way bigger. So when what you saying while you all the way across the world, and the way you going about it is fucked up. But you supposed to have class though. To me, he was showing he was just as fucking project as the rest of the niggas. But I think that it's very important, and I'm not afraid to say that shit. Like, yo, I love Styles P music. I grew up on that shit. Them some of the most lyrical rappers that ever lived on the planet. You know what I'm saying? And I used to listen to them, and I used to always argue with people growing up, like, yo, they fire, but they never sell music about like inspiration and shit. You like Jada, he did the song like once every album or once every 2 albums, you know, kids with no socks on, eating popcorn. You know what I'm saying? Like, they could have gave us more. You know what I mean? We listened to the Locks in many communities in different states, because the Locks was like up top shit. But if you knew at the time, they was around the country, but really to up top, to New York, New Jersey, you know, Connecticut, them areas, even Virginia, in the Carolinas, but especially in them top places, you know what I mean? They had the minds of the 10-year-olds to 50. And like he said, the Locks never gave us an elevated version. Even right now, and they signed the deals, you know what I'm saying? They're not, are they selling us elevation for black men? Even in a gangster way? You know what I'm saying? I know Styles is right now. That's what I say. I give Styles that because I know my brother still listen to Styles. He always hit me like, bro, Styles starting to sound like you. But like at the end of the day, that's why I say, as people, we have to look at the artists or the people we look up to. Look at their catalog. You know what I'm saying? You loving that person is cool, but look at every song that they sold the public. And was the tools that they gave the public through their messages? Because that's what they are, messengers of music. When the messages they gave, was it for destruction, or was it for rebuilding, or was it for soothing? And make your judgment.
Because I'm out here trying to help these fucking youth. You got a job, nigga. You blogging every day, nigga. Stop fucking worrying about what's going on outside. Get another little nigga from outside and get him blogging too. That's what the fuck you do, because you confused, nigga. You confused, brother, and I love you and I understand
Let me ask you a question. When Styles said that, it bothered me spiritually because it was like, you confused, my nigga, too. You sold dope and destruction and murder to us growing up. And now you gonna tell Haas he confused? See, it's a way to have this conversation, and it's a way that this conversation shouldn't have been. Like, I feel like Styles was more like, not as if you won't selling this shit. You weren't just a regular nigga in the street getting money to survive. Like, y'all was literally, even though y'all was teenagers at first, y'all been selling straight death and drugs. It's facts. And for all the niggas, whether if I know you or not, if your whole career been selling death and drugs and you the biggest gangster in the world, that's what you selling too. You know what I'm saying? But they'll look down on a nigga like me that was, I didn't want to sell that shit. Like, I grew up around this shit, in the environment, was in the streets with niggas, we was out there. And it was like, I never understood why niggas were so quick to sell that shit to me. Like, every nigga want to look like the biggest gangster in the world. Every black man rapper, the toughest nigga in the world. And that shit just not possible. So, me making street shit and making real shit, some niggas fuck with me for being realistic. Like, bro, I fuck with you. Right? And then some people's like, bro, I can't fuck with bro. Because they're afraid to be vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's happening in the music, and that's what's happening in real life, and that's what's destroying our community. The music, our black men music, the shit they look on TV, it's not cool to be vulnerable as a man. So if you ain't vulnerable, you can't show love to no woman. If you ain't willing to be vulnerable, if you ain't vulnerable, you can't show love to your sons and your kids or your friends. You can't be loyal. You know what I'm saying? You, like, think about it, man.
Shit you saying makes sense, but some of it don't. Some of it don't. And don't come pushing your fucking projecting your energy on other shit. I can't be questioned on the streets. You know why I can't be questioned? Because I've never ratted. I never told. It's never even been questionable. I've been facing 10 and 11. Could have told on my best friends. They know I didn't. You understand what I'm saying? I could have told on somebody who told on me. They know I didn't. So I can't be questioned when it comes to that. So when you...
Now let's keep it real, because being a nigga really in the streets, and motherfuckers out here know this shit for true. Yo, the truth is, shit happens. See, Styles said in his shit when we watched it a little earlier, he was saying like, he changed. He look like he understand niggas' circumstance. Some niggas ratted because they about to get life and they couldn't hold it. And like he said, he ain't that man to judge it. But when we younger, because of what we grew up on and the rules in the hood, it was like, you know, fuck that nigga. Even the civilians live off the logic. See, we got the street niggas and then we got civilians, right? Music bleeds the line between the two. The civilians fuck with the music to feel like they're in the streets too. You know what I'm saying? They get like a front row seat to this shit through the music. It's like rappers is like create movie theaters for niggas to pull up and eat popcorn, right? So the civilian gets the same experience as the street nigga through the music, right? So in the streets, because the music that we make is so influential, if I'm saying fuck snitches, the public, the bystanders, the innocent folk who not street motherfuckers is adapting that logic. Because like he said, it was never showed to us by any rappers who was the snitches and who wasn't the snitches in the music. So that's the thing about this.
Asking me about what's happening with y'all fucking Bloods and Crips and all of that other shit, I don't fucking know, bro, and I don't care. I'm out here every day trying to get the youth out of that direction. You know what it's like to be behind the wall? Why the fuck you ain't telling the kids, get a job, nerd up, nigga? That's what I do. That's what I'm out here doing.
If you listen to my message, you will know that that's what I tell the youth. Y'all try to sell me as I glorify the street. But right now, we beefing because I'm beefing with y'all niggas for glorifying the streets and being hypocrites. Right.
That's me. That's me, brother. Like, you gotta relax yourself and stop projecting. You get on here with your big arms, you're blogging, talking too much about behind the wall. Nigga, you a blogger. Keep blogging. There ain't nothing wrong. That's a good fucking thing. You got yourself a job. You're doing good. You got fans. You got people. Now you're all this confused. Like, yo, I'm gonna tell them Madison Square Garden, the diverse people of this, yo, this is questionable. I don't know. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro? Grow up, and you never heard me say anything bad about Bully. If the public know about him, it ain't because I said something about it. So you know what I'm saying? Grow the fuck up.
Bully is labeled as a rat. Y'all niggas disowned him. He's labeled as a rat And y'all the niggas that disowned him. Okay, so what was it? Who was it? Jadakiss that did it to him? Because it came from y'all niggas. So now it's okay to diss Bully. Shout out to Bully, because I like Bully. And I don't believe he's a rat. But y'all kicked that nigga to the curb. But you sitting up there with Jim Jones, the nigga that's on a wiretap, sitting up there telling Mel Murder how he could hit Tekashi's security.
All right, so let me ask y'all a real nigga question right now, right? Because we third party viewers, right? So we gonna be bystanders for a second. So let's take, if we from the hood, a lot of us all been in the street. Let's put that to the side. We just bystanders. If we seen on TV that the feds played a tape by Jim Jones that he's saying like, yo, you gotta violate this nigga. Nah, I mean you gotta super violate this nigga. You feel me? Like, so everybody in the team go to prison, even Mel Murder. Jimmy don't get arrested. He don't see no charges. That's what Haas is saying. So a lot of niggas is like, yo, whoa. Just think about that. I ain't asking for no answers, but we bystanders in this situation.
And to super violate Tekashi, a little boy. But let's continue on.
Big problem with y'all niggas in that set, and a lot of y'all, no disrespect, I'm an old school New Yorker, so I don't know shit about, I'm like old school New Yorker. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't know what the fuck, I don't know nothing about y'all shit.
Real spill, Art. Real
spill.
spill.
I'm around, I ask questions all day. So come here telling me about this shit. Nigga, I'm at juice bars, nigga, giving the youth a better way. I'm trying to fix our community's diet every day. That's my fight.
He had juice bars. I'm pretty sure, but the question I would ask, are you hiring the youth? You know what I'm saying? You definitely getting your money up because the juice bar is healthy, but are you hiring the youth? These are questions that be asked at the end of the day, because Styles not saying I'm hiring the kids from the hood, the convicted felons.
Fight, dog. Every day, that's what I'm out here doing. On the streets. You know what I'm saying? And you know what's real? This is what's a crazier conversation, brother. You know what? I deal with real dudes who've been through a lot of shit that I had this conversation on the side with them. Because when somebody come up to the juice bar telling me who ratted, guess what? When I'm at the juice bar, I'm a fucking businessman. Don't tell me shit about nobody who ratted. And none of that, because I ain't asked you. First of all, I don't like people to fucking chatter about people. If I'm calling somebody a rat, I'm calling them in their fucking face within arm's distance in case they want to swing. You know what I'm saying? Not over a computer. I'm going to make sure I'm right up close, personal, and call you a rat when you know I called you a rat. That's my MO. Not over a fucking computer, not none of that. Like, so, but the biggest thing about...
So you done told yourself that Poppy from Bronx River, right down the block from your juice bar, I won't come up in your spot like I've been going to your spot with Akeem, and I won't call Jim Jones a rat? You think that I won't go up in your spot, you in my neck of the woods by Bronx River, and I won't sit up there and tell you how I feel about you? I don't know what the fuck is wrong with y'all, nigga. Everybody is fucking tough with their entourage. Everybody's tough. All of a sudden, I'm just a blogger nigga, right? Like I ain't never been to jail. Like I ain't never catch no bodies and go to jail for them. Now I don't brag about catching bodies, but I need niggas to understand. Nigga, I got locked up for murder 3 times. Stop talking to me like I'm just a fucking blogger. Y'all niggas get locked up for drugs. Y'all pay niggas to put work in. I put my own motherfucking work in. Y'all niggas be killing me with that, with this talking.
See the frustration, bro. And I'm glad you said that, because this was part of the point. The frustration, what we don't see right now, and I don't mean to be a hypocrite because I get mad too, shit. But the truth is, because I can look at myself, is that in these situations, we haven't seen a Malcolm or a Martin. We don't need both in each situation, but I mean, like, shit, we seen Umar and bruh from Hidden Colors get into it, and they was calling Umar Bitch Boy Johnson. Or he's a bitch. And I'm like, my nigga, you supposed to be leading us to goddamn heaven and shit. Like, you give, like, how? And Umar over there talking shit, and it was like, oh, man, we look so bad. You know what I'm saying? So, I think it's those things. So that's why when you say, like, you got to remember, it's still a human being, and so he grew up living a lifestyle, and he's been up here. If you go watch any Haas video, he's trying to get the kids and the youth and the people to see that the world is dying, the kids are dying, the logic is fucked up as well. But the way he deliver, people to challenge it. You know what I'm saying? Because he ain't saying, well, guy got murdered today. He's saying, yo, this young kid got a snot box rock. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, that's what get people attention. It said if the judges was black these days and the correctional system was ran by us, will we snitch then? Like, how are we gonna get better with all? I think so, because history shows us that when we was in power, we betrayed our own. You know what I'm saying? We betrayed our own for other nations. Like when our empires fell to, like, you know, in any empire. I mean, I challenge you to find an empire damn near that didn't. And it was a few. But it's out of majority, it's always like brothers fighting each other and make a deal with the enemy, and then they kill him, and then they kill his brother, and they take the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? In the Moors Empire, certain people switched over. You know what I'm saying? And the Egyptians, shit happened. Family members, royal family members, niggas switched, niggas told. So, like, did the book of the destruction of the black civilization, and that was one of the questions he wanted to know, which was, from the beginning, was his logic of writing the book, which was, why does black people not trust each other? Was it because of something we were taught during slavery, or was it because of something that exists in us genetically because of so much things that has happened from betrayals through history? And that was the concept of his book. And I'm going to go into that. I'm going to go through some of the chapters and do some more convos about that. Because I like what you were saying, though, bro. Appreciate your comments.
Niggas ain't never drop a body, but be talking spicy. But we going to keep on going, because you going to get spicy, and I'm going to get spicy, too.
What up, bro?
Hit the like button. Let's get the notifications out. We 25 minutes in. We got 6,000 people in the building.
This whole point is y'all motherfuckers keep misleading the youth. The streets is the streets. The outside of the streets is outside of the streets. A lot of y'all niggas are not even built for this shit. When I'm trying to get y'all to fucking fruit and veggie up in the first place, then you come with your slow ass thought process, trying to push that shit on everybody else. Nigga, I build with real killers every day and tell them don't tell me that shit. Fuck is you talking about, man? Outside every day, Ghost.
Let me ask you a question, Ghost. When you get on that stage and you do your verses, right? Because you telling us right now what you doing behind the scenes. When you get on the stage and you put your CB4 costume on, are you going to go through them same lyrics that led the kids to the hellfire for the last 20 years? Or are you going to sit up there and perform those same songs when you diss 50 Cent and called him a rat? Will you? Or will you stick to positive songs, right? Like the song that you made with Bully, which is one of my favorite songs ever. And my brother's keeper, come to me hungry, I feed you. One of my favorite songs ever. The one with you and Bully. The one that was kicked out of the locks for being a rat. Don't sit up here and talk this shit about how what you doing, and you don't want to hear about rats behind the scenes, but when you get on the stage and you start performing, you start dissing rats on the stage. You know why? It makes you a fucking hypocrite. Because you didn't show us the transition through your music on the stage when you became Miss Styles P that was telling people you don't care about the street life no more. No, when you get on that stage, you still want to perform our favorite songs that made us think this way. From rap money to dope money, back to dope money. Huh? Money, power, respect, the key to life. You see the light and sleep at night. Huh? Glorifying the streets. Are you going to play the positive songs and make them notable out there so the young kids can say, yo, Styles P just said that it's okay to be. I want all of you young boys. Matter of fact, let me let him finish. Niggas be thinking they talking to a dummy.
Any borough. You know you see me alone. You know I tell the OGs to tell the youth, get the fuck your game, nigga. Fuck your game. I don't give a fuck about that shit. I'm a black man. Care about my community first, nigga. I say it, I tell you any nigga, any set, don't come to me with your principles and your shit. I don't give a fuck about what you talk about, nigga. I know about what I'm talking about. That's what I know about, what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is helping the youth every day. And if you ain't talking about that, I don't even know why you talking my name. You like a bird to me. Respectfully. But you like a bird to me, dog. Are you serious? You don't tell business people about fucking snitches in the code of the street. That's what's wrong with y'all niggas. Y'all niggas want a street reputation so bad. And you want to be be known in the street so bad. You want to be so big in your set. You want to be the big homie where you're from. You don't think sensibly.
So what this bird ass nigga just said, respectfully, I'm gonna make you out to be the bird ass nigga, Styles P. You just basically said out of your mouth, right? Because you think you talking to a dummy and you so high, you're not thinking about what you saying. You bird ass nigga, respectfully. Respectfully. You just said that business.
Nah, it's funny because, you know, I don't give a fuck how many times you say respectfully. Ain't shit respectful about what they saying. You know what I'm saying? About like how they delivering it. What they saying, like I don't like Styles making. I know for a fact Styles do. Like the last few years, Styles been on some black man power and power type shit. Like for real, I got them calls. Bruh sound like what I've been on for a decade. And Styles is on a different wave. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want y'all to get it twisted. But this shit crazy. When they say yo, no, I can say yo, fuck you. No disrespect, nigga. It is disrespect.
This is business. So you just told every little young dude in the hood.
He's speaking facts though.
That when they look at their co-defendant and they understand, just tell a nigga it's just business. Right? Because selling drugs is business. It's just business, nigga. So when you talk and you snitch with the district attorney, the same way Tekashi Mano, it was just business.
Hey Larry, his issue, I started with him earlier, his issue was that somebody must have showed Styles a video of him talking and he took that and ran with it. Because I could tell Styles didn't really came across Hassan like that because of what he was saying. But he was saying that he misinforming the youth and saying that he should be helping the youth. And so that's why Haas is chopping him up about, nigga, what was you selling us, nigga, when we was growing up?
Tekashi 6ix9ine was a rapper. So when he told on gang, it was just business. This is what Styles P just said. So Mano, I think you and Styles P need to have an argument about this conversation because Styles P said it's just business when a nigga rap. Yeah, I'm confused. Because the conversation me and Mano had today, he said Tekashi's a rap. But Styles P said when you rapping, it's business. Isn't that what you just said, Styles? That later on, the niggas that ran the streets, that taught us to not snitch, to stay away from snitching, you got mice on all over the internet dissing Troy Ave. Troy Ave was at work when he went to that club. His man got murdered while he was at work bodyguarding Troy Ave. So basically what you're saying is, if Troy Ave snitches in this case, it's just business. But my son is dissing Troy Ave when Troy Ave didn't even snitch yet and calling him a rat because he was at work, the place that Styles P just said is business. Now, explain to me, people who's listening, am I confused? Should I be confused? Because my son says Troy Ave is a rat, but Styles P says it's business. Is this a conversation that we need to have respectfully, Styles P and Mano together as a group? Because now I'm confused. One of y'all says the other one is a rat, and the other one says it's just business. I'm confused myself. I am absolutely confused because you niggas make the rules as you go along. T Brown, all right, you see my arms. Now you want to see my nuts? Thank you. Stick to the topic. Men don't judge other men unless you want to give me some head. Outside of that, what is there to talk about? You looking at me? You like me? Do you like me? Do you like me? You want to massage my arms? You want to?
Niggas is crazy. But see, that's where I learned too. Like when you be on the convos, and motherfuckers will be saying the most random shit to you in the convos when you in your most important topics or in the middle of some shit that makes no sense, right? Now we gonna switch real quick because I think that's a good energy. But I want to show you something I found by an elder talking about some history.
Leading people.
It'll be very key before we tune out of here. So before you leave, check this.
The enslavement of Europeans. Sorry, the enslavement of Africans by Europeans. A whole lot of people understand, at least not understand, but hear something that relate to how the British come here and the Spaniard come in the Caribbean here and take away. Them take away from Africa and bring on here. For them sugar cane and them cotton. But there is a part of slavery that is hardly spoken of. And it don't have nothing to do with white people. It has something to do with the Arabs. The Arab slave trade. The Arab slave trade lasts longer than the white people slave trade. And you hardly hear about that, and maybe it's because only black people see themselves as Muslim, while them talk less of it. Now, we know that the Portuguese was in Africa, and the Portuguese in Africa is a really serious problem because even Christopher Columbus, a lot of people don't know this, but Christopher Columbus was one of the sailors on the Portuguese ship who got into Africa. And there is a pathway to Europe that no one spoke of or speak of when they talk about enslavement of black people. And that is the trek across the Sahara Desert into Europe, into what you call Southern Europe. Them used to take our ancestors, chain them up and carry them across the desert and carry them into France and all the other places. So it's not every African who was enslaved did come to this part of the world. No, sir. A whole heap away did go across the Sahara Desert. But even within that, before the Europeans go there, the Arabs then take hold of it because they were spreading them Islamic religion. And most of North Africa get caught in that Islamic religion. To the point where you have Africans now give up them Africanness and mostly talk about Islam. As a matter of fact, a whole heap of these Africans call anybody who was like Muslims infidels. Can you?
So what he's saying, just to give you a little background, because I understand, is that there was a pathway that we used to travel into France and to Europe. We was already migrating, you know what I'm saying? But he was saying that the European slave trade happened for a short period. Ours lasted 1,000 years, you know what I'm saying? But he said that it got to a point in North Africa where a certain group of these black people decided to not, a group of these people decided that Islam was more important than the people. Like, instead of me representing whatever we is as black people, it's like Islam. And if they wasn't, and if they did not want to convert to Islam or wasn't Islam, they didn't consider themselves the same.
You believe that? Infidels. That means if he's not Muslim, whether you're black or whatsoever, you're supposed to dead. Yes, that is really the cry of Muslims, of Islam across Northern Africa. And we say right now the Arabs take over the whole of Northern Africa. And a whole heap of people believe, say, when we talk about Egypt and them to the people, them can't picture that. It's not so the original Kemetic people them did look. Because the majority of Arabs don't live in Arabia. The majority of Arabs live in Egypt. And they colonize Northern Africa, go right into Mali. Right into Mali. And them leave them devastation there. And you have some black people who rise up called the Moors. And the Moors go into a place named Granada, inside of Spain, and was giving them high culture. You talk with Europeans them. If you go to a place named Bordeaux, I don't know if I pronounce it right, Bordeaux, in France. Most of the street them and the building them was built by African people. The mosaic and all this was built by African people who them call Moors, the black ones. Yet still, the Moors never see themselves as African. They see themselves as Muslims. And when they reach across to the west of Africa, they never feel no way to take the so-called African people who was not Muslims and give to the white people them. Because even today, if you go into Jamaica, in a Moor town, a lot of Arab language is in, even the greeting Salam Alaikum. Salam Alaikum is found amongst the Muslims, the Maroons in a Moor town.
Moors.
And you wonder how the Maroons then get that, because the Arabic culture was deep into West Africa. Deep. When I say deep, I mean deep. I remember I said them did it long before the Europeans got there. So they was part of the enslavement of African people long before the Europeans got there. But we are the year.
So he was saying that as the year during its history, because all great things have a history in the past, right? So he's saying that these people that became Muslims, like the Moors, right? They put that, like being a Moor and a Muslim, over being black, right? I mean, even in some sense today, because I'm a Moor, I look at it as like, you know, we do say like, you know, we're not black, but we understand the ramification of it legally, right? But it's crazy to me because this is history saying that when they'll talk about how the Arabs started the slave trade, but they'll never tell you what they look like. You know what I'm saying? So this was something that they were doing amongst like the Moors and the Europeans. He's saying that they was handing them African people as slaves.
Anybody talk of that aspect of it, because as I said, maybe it's because only black people find themselves giving credence to Islam. But Islam, Christianity, all of them is no friend of Africa. No friend of Africa. None of them have Africa in them consciousness as people who has contributed a lot to the world civilization. Them see we as commodities to be enslaved and worked and cut.
See, I always tell my followers, I don't care. Even when I'm studying, I want to hear the cold bit of truth. You know what I'm saying? Because we gotta understand why. You know what I mean? When I listen to other people, Hebrew Israelites talk about how the Moors was traders and things like that, we gotta understand that there's a history that go along with, whether if you Egyptian, you Nubian, you Moor, whatever it is. Like that culture, all cultures on planet Earth has a history. And then and all of them have destruction, and all of them have some shit that is like, wow. But these are things painting a picture of why today we are in the place that we are. See, I talked to y'all about the Moors, right? But we got to talk about the real shit. Yeah, it was a time when the Moors came about, they put Islam over, like, yo, it's Islam over African people, right? But see, we got to ask ourselves why. Now, that's the great question, right? Because I can't sit here and tell you, I can't give you a clean answer. Well, I can give you a good one from my historical understanding, but I'll leave that to you to dig a little bit, right? Because we have to investigate the right way. I'm a Moor, but I love finding the shit that dig at me to understand what the fuck happened, right? We need a clear understanding of history to understand why we are in the position we are today, why we don't trust each other, and things of that nature. Regardless of what it is, it's still not going to make me disown what I say I am. It's my history, right? So we have to find out with Islam, which is not what we know today, it's the Islam that the Moors used, and we need to understand what was it. It was science. It was building of buildings. Remember, he said the Moors built the buildings in Europe and stuff. They went and educated the Europeans. Now, to our people, this is like, oh, these niggas is traitors. They were trying to bring these people out the dark age. Now, there's a history that's years further back than what he's talking about when the Moors enslaved the Europeans for a couple hundred years. I mean, well, listen, they went in, let me say it right. I said that backwards. Let me be corrected. When they did this, right, they was establishing a relationship. They had went in and cleaned up Europe from the sickness to disease, built schools, colleges, right? And in exchange, if they had conquered nations, right, remember, when we fought each other, we conquered. If Egypt fought Sudan and they won against Sudan, they had prisoners of war that became servants. So when they went and met with Persia, other nations, they would give gifts. Here, take some of my take some of my Sudanian slaves. Because the Sudanians, just like every culture, they specialize in something, right? Now, am I saying this right? No, but this was what the world was like. See, the first thing we got to understand is that the world today and how we see the world is nothing. If you're going to look at history and go with our logic of today, that's your first mistake and why you're not going to learn. You got to empty your cup of water and really look at this shit and try to get in the mindset of them. It was normal. When we fought each other, we would kill the whole village. We conquered completely. We took the women and slaves as kids. The rules of war and slavery was created by our people. The rules of war is that the winners right war, you kill the warrior class and slave the old people, the women, and the children. That was what we did. To conquer, you have to conquer completely. To take somebody's land, you got to kill the whole warrior class. And if they all gonna stand on their principles, you got to kill everybody. That's what was going on. You know what I'm saying? It's always beauty, but we don't never want to look. I don't care what empire you talk about. We go to Egypt, we can go to any empire. This exists. So I always hear people talk about with the Moors like they traders, man. I mean, whatever you cling yourself to, gonna have some history. And history is history. It didn't care. History didn't care if it was good or bad. It happened, right? So I want you to understand that at that point when they went into Europe, they started trading. They were getting slaves, but they was taking white women and sex trafficking them across the globe.
And plantation and any other menial jobs. Up to this day, them still do it. We as African people have to rise up out of that and understand the history. Understand the history. Because meanwhile, them was dealing with the Africans, them in a Spain. Them, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella decided that them going to run out all of the Africans them out of Spain. Because them did not deal with too much things.
So Isabella and Fernando, you remember last summer I told you if you want to know what happened before the slave trade, how we became slaves, it got a lot to do with the Moors. In the book, The Great Mother or The Black Mother, it starts off, it's a book about slavery, it starts off with the Moors in Spain. Now y'all tell me, what do the Moors got to do with it if it's a book about slavery? A lot. But you got to catch the drift and you got to dig. They're going to show you the ugly, but you need to find out what happened. All great things, all things that grow, fall right away. There's no empire that lasted forever. They all fell eventually. Right? They all got corrupted at some point. They all got disassociated with the people that they lived around. You know what I mean? So that's why I say, don't get discouraged. You want to know. The truth is ugly. So that's my best advice. The truth is ugly. It's a lot of pride. When you dig, you're going to find a lot of self-worth. But you're going to find some ugly shit too. And it seems like we don't want to hear the ugly shit. You know what I'm saying?
That was un-Catholic. Un-Catholic. And in 1492, them started thinking the Inquisition.
The Spanish Inquisition. Write that down if you watch this. I told y'all this years ago. If you want to know what happened between the Moors in Spain and the Europeans and how they ran them out in 1492, you know what I'm saying? And she said that they had to go because they was doing too many things un-Catholic. Now, mind you that when they got there in the first place, they were Muslims. And when they conquered Europe, they did not enslave them. Right? So the question is, we need to dig. If they conquered Europe and cured them and built colleges and schools and educated the kings and queens, and they did that in India too, well then tell me why do we keep getting this picture of them being these fucked up people? See, that's our job, right? Find it. There's nobody on planet Earth right now with all of this shit going on in the world. It's our job. It's our generation job to push this shit forward historically and get a lot of that bullshit out, regardless of what people say or judge. I'm going to go through that shit. I realize it come with it. But it's our job to find those pieces. In the destruction of the black civilization, he said, side note, I need my people in America to investigate their connection to the Moors. I'm going to show you one morning this week. He wrote this book in like the early 1900s.
Most of you might have heard of the Inquisition. The same 1492, Christopher Columbus making voyage to this part of the world. But the Inquisition started because a whole heap of people need to be destroyed because they wasn't with the papacy or the Pope of Rome. And that is why the Inquisition started. And most of them was Muslims and people were called Christians who never get credence to Rome. It's a serious thing. We need to go back into the history and study the Arab influence on Africa and how the Arab them enslaved African people.
Alright, side note, message. I just gave you a key to study, so I'm gonna give y'all a scholarly tool how it was given to me. So now that we done had this conversation, all of my scholars and the people that love history that tap in, who like these conversations, when you're reading history or when you get a book and they talk about Arabs, they're talking about the Moors. And see, when we think of Arab, we think of the Arabs we see today. That's not the Arabs. But see, that's a code word. We get, and when you're reading books and shit, this is how I know when I start cross-referencing and I start looking and paying attention. You know, because they start talking about, oh, they were Muslim, but they were builders. And they were educated. Okay, we're talking about Moors. But they were Arabs who had knowledge of self. Who da-da-da. You're talking about the Moors. They were, but the key word is Muslim. Not Muslim, Muslim. You're going to see Arab and Muslim through all the books and the stuff that I be reading when I find stuff. I learned that the code words is as if they won't write it. Some writers just not going to write it, so they use words like Arab or Muslim. Because to say it is kind of like forbidden.
For 1,000 years, them do that. 1,000 years. Give that. Yeah, this is Muta Baruka. I want to introduce it to
My name is Muta Baruka. Right? I just say it's crazy. I think history is something that's very important, you know what I'm saying, that we definitely look over. I'm going to skip into something I watched the other night, but I wanted to bring a part of it. He's talking about Columbus in America before he talking about what before 1492.
Our ideas about the environmental movement, it's this.
We listen to everybody.
So what you're looking at is not so much as a forest, but as a cemetery. Now, this had impacts not just in the Americas and all that, but even around the world. One of the striking things is that in recent years, scientific papers have been filled with lots of sort of incomprehensible looking charts like this. And the point here, again, is not for you to like puzzle all this out. But what they're trying to do is, in these kinds of charts, is to measure how much carbon was in the air, 500 years ago, 400 years ago, 300 years ago. And they have all these are bottoms of charcoal concentration in lakes in Central America, which is sort of a proxy for the amount of burning. They have things where they try to directly measure it in little bubbles of Arctic gas. And what they almost all show is that there's a big drop in carbon dioxide that comes roughly after Columbus and continues till about 1800. And this is one of the main candidate explanations for something called the Little Ice Age. And what the Little Ice Age is this 250-year-long cold snap from roughly 1550 to roughly 1800, when northern Europe was blanketed by snows, and you had this entire global change in the climate that seems to have been affected, perhaps even directly caused by the death of native people, which in turn was brought by this sort of ecological convulsion, the first wave of these microorganisms. And these kind of ricocheting effects around the globe are why increasingly historians and other scientists speak of Columbus really beginning the era of globalization.
See, and I always say, we listen, good morning, cuz we have to hear it. The truth is out there. And what they're talking about, but you can get it in many forms. Okay, you might not hear what you want to dig for the super stuff, but there's always going to be pieces. And this guy is giving you what was here. So his basis is that, like he said, Columbus brought animals and bacteria. And he's about to explain how crazy this is.
Now, none of this was apparent to Europeans at the time. I'm giving you strictly a 21st century interpretation. What Europeans were thinking about is here. The reason that they were interested in the Americas is that in 1545, Spaniards discovered in southern Bolivia the biggest silver strike in history. There's this mountain way up in the Andes called Potosi, and this town that came around, this incredible boom town, which became the largest city in the Americas, Potosi, just unleashed an absolute river of silver. In about 100 or 200 years, it doubled or even tripled the world's supply of precious metals. Now, up to this point, Europe had been a relatively poor part of the world, and it was trying to contact rich parts of the world. The richest part of the world was Asia, where China and Japan, these were the richest, most technologically sophisticated nations on earth, and the Europeans were trying to show up there and trade with them. The main industry in Europe at the time was textiles. The main textile was wool, and so there was actually records in the archives of these people, Spaniards, showing up in China with essentially a load of scratchy 16th century bathrobes and try to trade them for silk. And you can imagine how well this went off. And you see these piteous things. We don't make anything they want. It's like, from the Chinese point of view, it's like a bunch of hobos showing up and trying to sell them their rags. And suddenly, here, they find all this silver. And now the hobo's showing up. You still don't like him, but the suitcase the hobo has is full of $100 bills. And you pay attention. And so they brought the silver over, they traded it in Manila, which is Spain's entrepot over here, for silk, porcelain, slave, and spices. This went across Central America with sugar and tobacco from the plantations, went to Europe.
Boom. I want to show y'all something. See, this is the commercial map. That's why I said we need to pay attention. When they always talk about the ancient maps, you see how this map, Africa's over here. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Commercial map.
Was used to buy guns and horses, which were used to buy slaves, which mined the silver. And so you have this loop of commerce. For the first time, every habitable part of the world is united in a single web of commerce. And this...
Oh, I want to show y'all something for everybody who said I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Remember I told you the triangle slave trade never hit America? See the triangle, right? On the back end, on the silver and sugar route, yes. But tobacco, slaves, the triangle was South America, Africa, Europe. It's in your face.
$100 bills, and you pay attention. And so they brought the silver over, they traded it in Manila, which is Spain's entrepot over here, for silk, porcelain, slave, and spices. This went across Central America with sugar and tobacco from the plantations, went to Europe, was used to buy guns and horses, which were used to buy slaves, which mined the silver. And so you have this loop of commerce. For the first time, every habitable part of the world is united in a single web of commerce. And this is, again, the beginning of economic globalization. At one point, my editor suggested that we call the book "Ha Ha, Tom Friedman, the world has been flat for 400 years." But the marketing department, for reasons unknown to me, vetoed this. But this is obviously tremendously important. It is a tremendous landmark in human history. But I would argue the impact, the ecological impact, is even greater than the economic impact. And we should think of globalization as really primarily, and most importantly, an ecological phenomenon, because all these creatures, went back and forth on these ships. The Spaniards weren't paying attention to them, but the environment responded. One of the big examples here is the potato. Potatoes are originally from the Andes. They're a great thing developed by Peruvians over thousands of years, and they plant them especially in these flat areas in the Altiplano, which is this way high plain that they have in between the two big ranges of the Andes. And these kind of ridges and furrow system that are called huachacuno or huachos in Spanish. And you can see the reason that they do this, which is right here. You see there's snowfall, and the snow on the top has melted off. There's a big difference. It's amazing. There's a big difference between the top and the bottom, between the top of the ridge and the bottom of the furrow, as much as 5 degrees C, which is, if you're a farmer and you're concerned about your crops freezing, is a huge deal. And it drains. So you have this, by doing this, you create this sort of artificially warmer, drier part of the field, which you can plant your potatoes in. And one of the striking things is that potatoes are developed in the Andes, these thousands and thousands of varieties of potatoes. But the Andes, this is an area of the sort of suitability for potatoes, around the world. And the Andes is actually not that suitable. The big area that is suitable for potatoes, sort of the potato heaven, is right here. And when the potato came, it just exploded across this area. And the point is that this huge potato-suitable area just gets radically transformed, in just a few decades. And they cover it with these same ridges and furrows. So much of the European landscape, especially the northern European landscape, is covered with what's called in English lazy bed cultivation. And it goes all the way from Ireland to the Ukraine. And the reason for this, really, is that potatoes, which grow underground, can yield much more than wheat or cereal crops, which are these little seeds that are on top of skinny stems. And so a potato farmer could grow roughly 4 times as much what scientists call dry food matter from an acre of potatoes than they could from an acre of wheat. And the result was an incredible increase in Europe's food supply. And one of the great French historian, Fernand Braudel, was really the first to sort of pull out the consequences, and he toted up the number of sort of huge Europe-wide famines over the century, and then showed that basically what happens is you introduce the potato roughly in this period, and Europe's able to feed itself. And it's just absolutely striking. And then Europe's population has been kind of lumping along here at Black Death, but not too much. Potato comes and it takes off. all these governments, because they're no longer if you read a Daniel Defoe novel, there's always mobs in the background, hungry people causing trouble, and there's armed guards around granaries and this kind of thing. It all stops, and these governments become much more stable. And they look around, what do governments that are stable want to do? They want to conquer things, and what they find is that there's an adequate supply now of Europeans who can do this. And so the potato is really the fuel for European empires. And it's so important to the development of Europe that if any of you are, go to your nearby bookstore and want to buy a one-volume history of Europe, you should look in the index. And if there isn't a big entry for potatoes, you should really put that book away and get a more modern book because, the author really hasn't paying attention. Now, Europeans look around and they see this tremendous change in their own landscape. And this becomes a wellspring of agricultural innovation. And agricultural reformers come in, and most important is a German chemist named Liebig, who discovers that plants really need nitrogen to grow. And they can't use the nitrogen in the air because the two atoms are too tightly coupled together for the plants to pull apart. What they need nitrogen is in various forms of nitrites and nitrates, and that he discovers that one of the best sources for this is guano, bird excrement. And it so happens that there's these islands off the coast of Peru where seabirds have been roosting for generations and millennia. And so these are these low islands, but what you're seeing here is gigantic cliffs of pure guano. And so they set up, the Peruvian government sets up these guano mines. They bring in thousands of very unlucky Chinese slaves and who have to work in these absolutely horrible conditions, mining the guano and dumping it in ships, and this parade of ships goes.
You remember we went through that lecture a couple months ago when I showed you how Asian and Chinese slaves came to America and got known as the Indians?
Around the tip of South America and into Europe, bringing this high-intensity fertilizer. But they also bring another passenger. And that's this here, Phytophthora infestans, the potato late blight, which it arrives the large-scale guano shipments begin in 1843. The blight arrives 2 years later, and the first record of it is in June 1845, end of June. Here it is in mid-July, mid-August, mid-September, mid-October, just absolutely explodes across Europe. And it's the first modern agricultural calamity. It goes from Ireland, to the Ukraine. About 1 million people die, and the results are just absolutely catastrophic. This is the last large-scale famine before the widespread use of photography, so we don't have very many pictures of it. But you can get some idea of what Ireland in particular was like. Ireland was probably the poorest part of Western Europe. It was the most heavily dependent on the potato. Roughly 40% of the Irish ate no solid food other than potatoes, and their entire food supply of half the country vanished in a few weeks. And so you had this horrific sort of post-apocalyptic landscape, and the results were so devastating that even today, Ireland has fewer people in it than it did in 1845. Probably the only nation on earth in which this is true. There are fewer people in Ireland today than there were in 1845. And so this is one of the reasons that, again, that historians are arguing that these environmental changes, these ecological, biological changes are as important when you think about the creation of the modern world, the creation of globalization, as the sort of economic stuff that we normally think about. It's not just a factor in Europe. One of the things I didn't learn in Highland Junior High School, we never looked at maps, and so we never know any geography. So it wasn't until I was in my 30s, I think, that I actually started looking seriously at maps. And one of the things we do, just in case any of you went here, this is a map of China, which is any of you are Highland Junior High School graduates. And if you look at this whole western part of China, there's no bodies of water in China. And the whole western part of China has practically no water at all. There's only two decent-sized rivers here, the Yangtze and the Huanghe or Yellow River, and there's hardly any, flat areas where you can have well-watered flat areas where you can grow crops. There's no real equivalent of here, the Middle West, in China. They have 20% of the world's people, about roughly 7% of the world's above-ground fresh water, and then, just to make things worse, the crop that everybody wants to eat has to be grown in swimming pools. So, if you want a one-sentence summary of Chinese history, it's, emperor after emperor, dynasty after dynasty, for hundreds and hundreds of years, try to reconcile, square this particular circle, which is that they're trying to grow a super water-intensive crop for a huge number of people in a country with no water. Now, this also gives you, when I look at this, you have to say, you can't really, it's like sort of like Dr. Johnson's talking dog. You can't be, you don't know whether to be amazed that they were so stupid for so long or that they actually managed to do it sort of for a long time. Now, This radically changes, though, in about 1600. A huge change in Chinese history when these American crops come. And they're the first really productive dryland crops that show up in China, the sweet potato and maize. And so if you go into rural China today, you'll see, China still grows 80% of the world's sweet potatoes, and you see all these crazy dishes that, no American would ever consider. They're actually quite tasty, but they're just this, entrenched part of rural Chinese cuisine. Then you go further out into these very dry areas, and you see people growing corn in stuff that looks to me like a beach. It's absolutely amazing. Then they grow it in rocks. They grow it in places that you would never imagine anybody could grow anything. And look at this. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But there they are. I mean, these guys are geniuses. They're getting something. And the same thing happens. All these people, the Chinese government moves all these people west. They kick out, it's very much like in American history. They kick out all these indigenous people. They clear whatever is on the landscape in these dry hills that I showed you on the map, and they start planting corn, sweet potatoes, and then later potatoes. And Chinese population goes up as well. This is when China becomes, the watchword for overpopulation. And so if you go out to northwest and southwest China, you see these incredible terraces that these people were told to go out and dig. They're just all over. There are hundreds and hundreds of miles of these things. They're unbelievably spectacular. Your tourist guide will tell you that this is this centuries-old traditional Chinese way of doing things. It's complete nonsense. This is something that's a response to Christopher Columbus. Now, if you look at these terraces, they're made out of dirt, right here. And so if you stay in a village or something and it rains, which it occasionally does, you'll be woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning by, because everybody's out there with hand tools fixing up these terraces. And as you can imagine, this isn't the most successful thing. And here is like a 90-year-old terrace. And this poor guy is still trying to grow sweet potatoes on it. But I hope some of you are looking at it and thinking, well, wait a minute, there used to be all this dirt here, where to go? Well, gravitation works in China just like it does in the United States, goes down to the bottom. And there's this ravine down here where there's a little creek. And the creek goes into a slightly larger creek, which goes into a stream, which goes into a river. And the whole thing eventually flows into, in this case, the Huanghe, the Yellow River. And the amount of the stuff that's eroding away into this river is just staggering. I traveled there with a National Geographic photographer who kindly let me use some of his pictures. But the amazing thing here is that the people that were with told us that you were 30 years ago, you could walk from here to here. So all this has been cut out, in the last 30 years. Suppose they're off by a factor of 2. It's the last 60 years. The point is, it's just an incredible amount of erosion. Where did all that dirt go? Well, this is the coast of China, Shandong province. It's the delta of the Huanghe. And since 1850, there's been 3,000 square kilometers added to it. It's just huge. And all this is the stuff that was loosened by the arrival of the potato and sweet potato, these American crops. But even more than that, something happened. One of the pleasures or fascinating things about working on this book was I got to go to the Chinese State Meteorological Bureau, and they have used these extraordinary records that the Chinese have of every county to compile these detailed maps of the Chinese floods for every year, for hundreds of years. Now, this is very hard for you to understand because unless you speak China, so I've sort of doctored it up a little bit. And this area here, with these dark blue areas, is where, in this particular sort of randomly chosen year, they had huge Katrina-level floods, where thousands and thousands of people die, and it's total devastation, and it's a massive state emergency. And these areas here are where they had floods like we had last year in New England, where people lose their houses and their crops, and it's like a local disaster, but it isn't sort of a calamitous thing that causes huge numbers of dead people and refugees. So you see, and this happened again and again and again and again. And when I asked the meteorologists how we should describe it to people like you, because our experience is so different, they said, tell them that China had a Katrina every month for 100 years. Now you can imagine what happened with this. I mean, this totally destabilized the government. There are millions and millions and millions of angry flood refugees going around. Some of them start this thing called the Taiping Rebellion, where 20 million people die. It's just a total chaos. And it explains why China, which at the time of Columbus was the world's largest, it helps explain why China, which at the time of Columbus was the world's largest and most sophisticated sort of state, is by the 19th century something that can be pushed around by small groups of European soldiers. And even to this day, China is trying to recover from this ecological disaster. And so they have these huge programs where peasants in their villages are told at the end of harvest to go out and plant trees. And this picture gives you some idea of how successful the whole thing is. They are told to, they have to dig, they aren't paid in any way. They have to dig these, they're called fish scale pits. And of course, they don't like doing it. They get no benefit from it that they can see. And so these guys who were taking me out here told me proudly that they had figured out that if they just planted trees that died, they didn't have to keep digging these pits further and further away. And some of these have been planted 6 and 7 times. So this is, gives you some pause. If you occasionally in environmental magazines, you read about these massive environmental programs that China is doing. Well, here's one of them. Now, this also happened in the Americas. Probably Columbus's greatest gift to the Americas was malaria, which didn't exist in the Americas at the time of Columbus. Another thing I didn't learn in Highland Junior High School is how malaria works. It consists of a single-celled creature, Plasmodium, this little green guy, which is hosted by a certain type of mosquito called Anopheles. The Plasmodium in the mosquito's body enters into your body when it bites you. It goes through a bunch of changes, but eventually it learns how to open up red blood cells, tuck itself inside, reproduce like mad inside the blood cells, and then in this kind of incredible coordinated assault, they rip open millions of blood cells all at once, and huge numbers of these things flood into your body, and you feel awful. And while you're prostrate and feeling terrible, another mosquito bites you, and there's so many of them in your bloodstream that it sucks up some, even though it's only taking a few drops, and it goes off and bites another person. And this is the way that malaria has worked. Malaria is an incredibly wily adversary. It's developed this way of being able to hide itself in a dormant state inside your body. You feel better, then you can do something like cross the Atlantic, and then you've been here for a few months, and suddenly you get malaria. Now, it turns out that there are plenty of these kind of mosquitoes, Anopheles mosquitoes, in the Americas. And this is a map of the main Anopheles mosquito ranges. This is the areas in which you can, at least in potential, get malaria in the Americas. But the worst kind of malaria is called falciparum malaria, is Plasmodium falciparum, is a tropical creature. That's the kind that when you hear about Bill Gates trying to cure malaria, that's what he's talking about, is the kind you hear about when you hear about, I think it's 750,000 kids under the age of 5 die every year in Africa or something like that. That's the one they're talking about. It's the bad kind of malaria. It's a tropical creature. It can't exist in cold weather. And so what you have here is an effective line where it can't exist. The reason is that it has to do its stuff inside the mosquito when the temperatures, when it doesn't have 3 weeks of temperature that is constantly above roughly 69 degrees, night and day. It takes so long for it to do its stuff inside the mosquito that the mosquito dies. And so there's this effective limit where it can't thrive. And in our country, it's the Mason-Dixon line. Now here, interestingly enough, similar effect, just at southern Brazil is where you can't, in Brazil you can get it, in Argentina and Uruguay you can't. Now, the striking thing here is that there's another geography that could be described this way. This whole area here was where the Americas had slave societies. In my state of Massachusetts, we had slaves. It was the first state to legalize slavery, but it wasn't a slave society the way that Virginia or the Carolinas were. Similarly, Brazil, a slave society. Argentina and Uruguay had plenty of slaves, but they weren't slave societies the way that Brazil was. And I'm going to argue in the remainder of this talk that this is not a coincidence. Another map here. Malaria has been around so long that in places like Africa, human beings have evolved defenses against it. One of the most famous is called sickle cell anemia. It's very complicated, and so maybe the best simple way of describing this is to say it kind of makes you half immune to falciparum malaria. And this thing I want to show you here is this is where this particular type of resistance to malaria is most prevalent. There's another kind much less well known, a little bit more effective, called G6PD deficiency. Again, the center of it, Central and West Africa. But all these involve changing the red blood cells so that these little creatures can't climb in so easily. There's another kind of malaria, the second most important kind of malaria, called vivax malaria. There's another change in the red blood cell called the Duffy negative antigen that effectively makes you completely immune to vivax. And so prevalent is this in Central and West Africa that it's basically the only tropical place in the world where there is no vivax malaria. Now, the same thing is true also for yellow fever, and I can show you more charts, but I'm trying to give you the idea that there's people in Central and West Africa have these genetic differences, and that they have enormous practical impact. These were first really unveiled by the great historian Philip Curtin, who studied these reports, parliamentary reports that came out in the 1840s and 1850s from British parliamentary reports.
So now you see why it was so important for them to enslave us. See, it was deeper than just wanting to play a game on us. They came, and when they conquered the Americas and they knew what they was coming to do, They needed these people who was genetically immune to some of these diseases and mosquitoes that was killing them if they was out there.
Saying, why are all our troops dying, when they go to Africa? And so they totted up the number of people who died when they went to Africa. And so in Sierra Leone and Cape Coast, which are in West Africa, every year, if you had 1,000 British troops, somewhere between 483 and 668 of them would die. What you're looking at is between, if you're an English person sent to West Africa at that time, in the first year you had somewhere between a 1/2 and 2/3 chance of dying. And this happened every year. So there's a phenomenal loss of life. It was just, inconceivable.
Just from being on the continent.
Large. Now, over here are the rates of death for African troops. 32, a tenfold difference. And they weren't really treated that well. And so if you're African, because of the presence of malaria and also yellow fever, you're vastly more likely to survive than if you were European. Well, the same thing comes true when malaria and yellow fever come to the Americas. Malaria puts its thumb on the scale. We used to have, in England, this system called indentured servants. And in the 17th century, in the first 70 or so years of English colonization, as 2/3 or more of the people who came over from Europe were indentured servants. This changes in the 1680s with the arrival of malaria, and it puts its thumb on the scale, and it helps drive the transatlantic slave trade, which in turn actually alters the change in the human species. I've been talking about all these other species coming, but we ourselves, Homo sapiens, were affected by the Columbian exchange, by globalization, by all these changes set off by Columbus. If you looked at the world at the time of Columbus, Africans basically were entirely in Africa. Europeans in Europe, Native Americans, of course, here, Asians in Asia. Now, after Columbus, you have these incredible things, odd things, like Argentina or Australia being dominated by Europeans, Brazil being dominated by people of African descent, Chinatowns all over the globe. It's like our species has been put in a blender. And the overwhelming largest factor in all this was the slave trade, which was helped pull over by malaria. As late as 1820, nearly 4 Africans cross the Atlantic for every European. And so if you're flying above this and looking down, what you see in early American history really is the meeting not so much of Europe and an empty continent, but a huge wave of Africans and the remaining Native Americans. And this collision between Africa and America is really what built our continent. And when you go to these great colonial cities in the Caribbean, in the rest of Latin America, and you think about all the tremendous stuff that was built in the Southeast, all of this was built by a combination of African and Native hands, with Europeans playing a demographically peripheral role. It's only in the late 19th century that Europeans really become a demographically dominant presence on the continent. And so this gives you a new perspective on our own history as we are entwined with these other creatures in this kind of crazy mixed up scrambled egg world that we've lived in for 400 years. And that's really what I came to talk to you about. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you had any.